In the entirety of his career, comedian Dave Chappelle has had an arguably controversial career. He has consistently made the LGBTQ+ a topic of his conversation, which has resulted in a lot of backlash. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg, as the 48-year-old has had multiple other controversial moments. So what are they? You'll want to keep watching to find out. First off, let's take a look at Chappelle's first controversial moment, his comeback to Netflix in March of 2017. During this time, Chappelle's first Netflix special was released and left his reputation in major need of recovery, mainly due to its transphobia. With this, a comic that was once considered revolutionary for his super smart critiques of race in America was close to crossing a conservative line on a new generation's struggle for social justice. But even after his return in the following winter of 2018 with 2 more Netflix offerings, it seemed that he was still not interested in recovering his wounded reputation at all. Although in the first of these specials from his 2017 show, Equanimity, he addressed the row over his trans material by noting his awareness of the transgender community absolutely hating him. He wasn't there to express regret whatsoever. He stated that he did like transgender people and supported their struggle to live equally without fear, but he still believed that he reserved the right to joke at their expense, and he continued to do so. Once more, from the vantage point of a self-satisfied straight guy who found his identity inherently comical. In fact, instead of apologizing for his remarks, he only made more jokes, as he seemed to be amused by the fact that he was apparently on the wrong side of history according to him. He then made another claim, which is that it's not a comedian's job to be right, but to be reckless. Addressing other comics, he tells them, "You have a responsibility to speak recklessly, otherwise my kids might not know what reckless talk sounds like. I didn't come here to be right, I just came here to mess around." And if that wasn't bad enough, in the other gig, he only dug himself a deeper hole by making the claim that he never felt bad for anything he said while on stage. The next controversial moment in timeline order happened in mid-2019 when he released Sticks and Stones. With this being Chappelle's 5th special for Netflix following the 4 2017 specials he distributed through the streaming giant, signaled a major shift in Chappelle's comedy and his critical reception. With a focus on cancel culture, he went on to aim his target at the alleged victims of Michael Jackson and Louis C.K., trans people, and the Second Amendment. However, while these jokes didn't seem to be fan favorites, Chappelle made the mention that fellow transgender comedian Daphne Dorman was present at a set he held at a Punchline in San Francisco. He noted that she had apparently laughed harder at the trans jokes than anybody in the room, making this seem like what should have been an apology. As a matter of fact, in a tweet 2 days later, Dorman defended Chappelle, writing, "He isn't punching up or punching down, he's punching lines. That's his job, and he's a master of his craft." Nevertheless, critics still go hard against him for Sticks and Stones. Of course, as some may know, that isn't as bad as it has gotten for Chappelle. Here are some more of his controversial sketches. First is, It's a Wonderful Chest. Even for the time when it originally aired, it already seemed a bit iffy. This sketch surrounds a large-breasted woman as she considers getting a reduction due to all the unwanted attention she gets and the literal pain in her back. She is soon presented with the scenario of what her life would be like with a smaller chest, which, needless to say, is presented as worse. In the end, when she decides to not have the surgery, it turns out that the magical janitor who shows her the image life turns out to be high on PCP. The next controversial sketch was Celebrity Trial Jury Selection, which is where Chappelle imagines himself during jury selections for famous stars, including Michael Jackson and R. Kelly. At the time, Kelly was on trial for a video reportedly showing him urinating on and copulating with an underage female. He was ultimately found innocent in that case, but now he is currently incarcerated and facing charges on 18 counts, including child pornography, kidnapping, and forced labor. Though it's played mostly for laughs on the R&B singer, at one point Chappelle states he can't believe everything he sees in the video because it could have been doctored. However, with all these other moments put aside, Dave Chappelle has recently been facing immense backlash over jokes he made during his 6th and potentially final stand-up special special for Netflix, The Closer. And even with prominent LGBTQ+ organizations speaking out against both him and Netflix for giving him a platform, Chappelle has shown no signs at all of making a sincere apology, or none at all. With so much debate and controversy surrounding the comedian, some may be confused as to what exactly he said that prompted so much hate. Well, to start off, he addressed his previous comments, and not in the way you would think. The reason so many people think Chappelle decided to double down on his past comments is that he dedicated roughly the last third of his comedy special to talk about LGBTQ+ issues, specifically when it comes to the transgender community. As we've shown, he previously caught backlash for comments made on both Sticks and Stones as well as his other Netflix specials. So during a portion of his latest special, Chappelle argued that anyone who was truly paying attention to his past work would know that he wasn't ever actually talking about the transgender community when he was making them the center of his jokes. I've never had a problem with transgender people. If you listen to what I'm saying, clearly my problem always has been with white people, he declared. He then went on to rant, ultimately asking the question as to why it's easier for Bruce Jenner to change his gender than it is for Cassius Clay to change his name. Another segment from Chappelle's Netflix show that many weren't too happy with was when he defended J.K. Rowling. While Chappelle may have seemingly had a defense for his past comments, a lot of people who tuned into The Closer found his comments defending Rowling, the Harry Potter author, indefensible. Due to her comments on Twitter about what seemed to be anti-trans, many fans were quick to point out and call her out along with it. In fact, even Chappelle called her out. However, instead of opposing the author, he stood by her. Seeming to be confused as to why people were so mad, he claimed that all Rowling said was that gender was a fact, also pointing out that as a result, many fans started calling her a TERF. For those who may not know, a TERF is a term that many critics have applied to Rowling that stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. It relates to someone who believes in feminism but does not include transgender women as part of their personal belief or activism on the matter. They look at transgender women the way we blacks look at blackface, Chappelle explained. After this, the comedian then went on to proudly declare that he too identifies as a TERF. Of course, then he spent a few minutes harping on the biological aspects of gender, discounting what many critics and transgender activists have argued reduces the conversation to mere biology rather than the social constructs of gender. Every human being in this room, every human being on Earth, had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on Earth. That is a fact, Chappelle says in the special. He continued on and made some remarks that weren't exactly fan favorites, pointing out how trans women were different from what he described as normal women. And if things seemed like they couldn't get any worse, you're wrong, because the comedian then went on to touch on the recent DaBaby controversy, creating a controversy of his own. Chappelle pulled no punches in mocking the LGBTQ+ community for canceling DaBaby after he made homophobic comments at a recent Miami area concert. He was forced to make several apologies as criticism led to him being dropped from the Lollapalooza lineup. In fact, in The Closer, Chappelle noted that the rapper, whose real name is Jonathan Kirk, suffered more career strife from the homophobic comments than from a 2018 shooting he committed that left a 19-year-old dead, which is a part of DaBaby's history that Chappelle claimed the LGBTQ+ community had no idea about. DaBaby shot and killed a man in Walmart in North Carolina. Nothing bad happened to his career. Do you see where I'm going with this? In our country, you can shoot and kill a man, but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings, Chappelle claimed. At the time, it was reported that DaBaby had shot and killed a man who he believed was going to try to rob him, but his family says he was not the case. Nonetheless, not only did DaBaby get an immense amount of backlash from his comments, but Chappelle also faced some angry responses after he backed up the rapper, only adding on to his list of controversies. With that said, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.